from day 25 to day 28, we'll work on the notion of team building, rules, the usefulness of feedback, and what makes feedback critical in the development of your project. As you're finishing your first story, you may want to write another already. And this training you've received may entice you to start a larger project, a bolder project maybe, a greater project on your second book, third book, fourth. Same applies for stories, a series of games, or an animated series. You may want now to develop something larger than one book. And in order to do so, you'll need to gather a team. Each of your teammates will have different roles and different functions. And we'll apply the logic we've established in this course of functions and role to team building in order for you to understand the different archetypes of team members. In order to find why your projections are working or not, what you can change about them in order to ameliorate them, you'll want to receive a form of feedback. And part of this feedback, and in fact, probably the most useful part of this feedback, will come from your team. If you're writing a story with multiple people, you'll have the advantage of having a diversity of perspectives. However, feedback is not limited to your teammates only, and you'll want to receive feedback from your public. It is the other main kind of feedback. So you want to have inner feedback coming from your team, and outer feedback coming from your public. And in order to estimate if this feedback is useful, we'll present you a set of questions, a set of themes you'll want to question your public about, or your public may want to ask you questions about these themes, these topics, since they are the most important in your story. Feedback needs to be focused. Feedback needs to be specific, and it is what will make it most useful. This and implementability. Why would you create a team? What are the advantages of creating one? A team will mainly allow you to scale your projects up, but it is not the only advantage. As you're creating your team, you can now share with other people the workload and the reward. Sharing the work here does not necessarily mean attributing to each member the task they are most suited for. It may be also a matter of interest, not only of proficiency. So the workload may be distributed according to what one team member wants to try, wants to experiment. And as you're defining and refining the interests of each team member, you can try to give to someone a task which she may not necessarily be particularly proficient into, but she's particularly interested into, allowing her to grow faster, to become more versatile, to become more polyvalent. Experimentation is key in team building, just as it is in solo work, as you've already experienced. But in team making, it's a different kind of experimentation. You'll experiment the different aspects of narration, all as specialists in your domain, but also as a collective, also as a group. So each individual in the team will experiment each aspect, the aspect in which she specialized, and also all the other aspects she may be less comfortable with, but also as a part of a collective. The team itself becomes a character who grows, a character who plays with the thematics, with the options, with the narratives you want to go through. The main advantage, the most prevalent feature of a team is the access to diversity. Now, sharing the reward, namely, between the team members is essential. But sharing the attention, sharing the interest, sharing the focus, and finally sharing the possibility for each team member to be the leading member of the team with each new project is key. So diversity here means two things. You'll have the access to multiple type of individuals, you have access to multiple type of interests, you have the access to multiple type of perspectives, and so you want to use them all. So with each new project, if you can, if time allows, if other constraints and durances allows, with each new project, try to change the leading member of the project. If you were the leading member of this project, which you use this course for, or you will be the leading member of the next project, for the following one, try to designate one of your other team members as the new leading member. Remember here, perspective is key. And as perspective is key, the definition of each team member, of stories, of characters, of genres, of themes will be crucial. You'll want to have the definition of each of your team member. You'll want to have their vision on how a story should be written. Again, you'll want to go with the model we've proposed you, the template we proposed you in this course, but there are some moments, especially the crisis. The crises are moments where you'll express yourself most intensively. So that may be where the leading member may want to alternate the structure of the story during the crisis, for example. Character creation is another crucial element because each team member may want to experiment new characters you've never done before, and that's where you'll want to leave them a lot of flexibility. By judging, again, you have to establish a cohesion between the characters, genres, and themes in your story. So you want to allow this leading member, this other member, to create original characters, but you also want to balance this sense of surprise, of entertainment, with the general cohesion of the genre, the general cohesion of the story's thematic you all established together. This diversity may generate conflicts, but conflicts are not an issue as long as they are related to your project. This will be the introduction of a new concept, of a new format, of a new setting for you. You're now creating a corp, you're now creating a company, you're now creating an enterprise. And you're starting to turn your projects into products. So, in terms of execution, in terms of implementation, in terms of promotion, in terms of selling and marketing the last bit of production, the finished product, there will be some dissension eventually. That's not a problem. It just indicates that everyone wants the best for the product. Everyone wants the best for the project. Everyone wants the best for the brand. Now, that's how we'll pick our team member. Now, that's the main factor. The main factor will be we want to have team members and we want to have a team which is sustainable. So what does it mean here? It means that every project is treated as a future product, and this product should display the best of the brand. Now, how do you choose your team member? Well, the first criterion is you want people who will put the interest of the brand first. You want people who will put the projects first, the product first. So you'll want people who will display a great sense of sustainability. And we're starting with the end for this one, because here you want to be in the very long run. These will be people you'll be working with for a long period of time, for an extending period every day. So these are people you want to choose, and we'll get back to sustainability at the end of this episode. These are people you want to choose to work with in the long run. And long run here means that they will want to put the best image possible for your stories, for your series, for your brand first in front of your public. And you want these people to promote, you want these people to be the ambassadors of their stories. You want these people to appropriate the characters, the environments, the worlds. You want these people to want to make everything in the world you've already created. If you started alone, you want these people to put them in perspective. You want them to put them, to allow them to grow, to allow them to change, but at the same time by preserving what has been established for the characters, for the environment, and for the world first. So as per usual, you want to balance the long term and the short term, but by allowing a lot more space for the long run. So that's where efficiency comes into the episode. You want some form of short term in your mind. You want to have some form of motivation in the short term. You want to motivate your team members. Now that's how you'll choose them. That's how you'll pick them. You want them to be efficient, but in which dimensions? You want an efficiency in learning and an efficiency in executing. And what does that imply? Well, enjoyment is the key to efficiency. So your products, your products, your stories, your world have to be enjoyable. Because if they're not enjoyable, people won't be motivated, and that's true for the public as well. Because you can find your team members in your public. In the long run, let's take an example. You're a writer. You've been writing for 3 years, let's say, and you've published in 3 years. You've published 7 books. Okay, 7 books in 3 years, and now you're conducting very regular polls. Weekly polls, and in these polls, you're also additionally to these polls, you're also conducting questions, contests, public displays, public Q&As, and you have the ability to meet your public quite often and quite extensively. You meet your public, you talk with your public face to face or online, and you have the ability to recruit your team inside your public. So if you made your world enjoyable for the last 3 years and for your last 7 books, if you made your characters enjoyable, you've made it memorable, you made your settings colorful, the atmospheres are strong, you may have the ability to recruit people in your public which love your story and which now want to be part of your story. And that's how these people will be intrinsically efficient. That's how they will be intrinsically learning faster. They'll be executing in the most efficient way possible. And that leads us to the next point. If it's enjoyable, people will learn faster because they'll be motivated. They may even take some form of initiative. They may become proficient faster, but really faster is not the important part. You want some form of short term. So you want people to go faster in your project, will go bolder in your project. But what really matters is that people love your project in the long run. Again and again, attachment is the key here. Attachment is the key of this whole course. So we're targeting long run. Emotional attachment will be developed in the very, very long term. So we're not trying to make fast, speed, quick our first objective. It's secondary. But if people get attached, get gripped by your work faster, they have more time to develop the emotional attachment. That's the balance we want to create here. So if people enjoy your work, so now by people I mean your public and your team enjoy your work, they want to be part of it. And now we'll get to the third criteria thanks to that. Their proficiency will allow them to be extremely useful. You will be useful to team member B, for example, and team member B will be useful to team member C, C to D, and D to you, and so on. And that's our cycle again. And that's the same clockwise cycle. So when you're picking people, you want to be useful to these people, you want to be able to help them, and you want to be able to ask them for help. So they have to be useful to you. Now, that's the first layer. The second layer is they have to be useful and you have to be useful. But other than that, no, more than that, you want to be useful to them and they want to be useful to them. So they will want to ask you for help and you will want to help them. And here, to get back to sustainability, think in years, think even in decades if you're planning to create a series or a saga. Because for this section, for the usefulness part, you want to help these people. You want to help your team and you want to help them in the long run. You want to see them grow. That's your team. That's your group. You want them to evolve. You want them to enjoy yourself during the work time, during the project, but even outside. You want them to enjoy themselves during breaks, for example, or during a session. If you're having a holiday session outside of the office, you want them to bloom, really. You want them to become more versatile, you want them to become more motivated, you want them even, to some degree, to be able to replace you. No, if you're really aiming for the extremely long run, you want, if you disappear tomorrow, for the rest of your team to be able to operate without you. Because that's how you'll see that you absolutely succeeded. If you're really in the extremely long run, if you're aiming for the true sustainability, you want your work to be able to survive. You want your work, you want your series. For example, Harp brand, Another Humanity. We want it to be run wherever we're able to run it or not. If the brand survives, that's what matters. So you want to pick your team members in consideration of these two dimensions. You will be working, but you will be talking, you'll be interacting with these peoples daily and for years. Again, decades if you're trying to create a series or a saga.